In viewing the three messengers of the awakening on the 13 Baktun map, we see that Buddha and Muhammad actually represent two ends of the spectrum: 570 years before Christ, Buddha, and 570 years after Christ, Muhammad. The spirituality of the Quran incorporates the teachings of Jesus. We can then see that the teachings of Muhammad are counterbalanced by the teachings of Buddha. What do the teachings of Buddha and Muhammad tell us about a genuinely new spirituality? What does it mean that, chronologically, Christ is at the middle point? The countdown to the end of time is based on the birth of Christ. There is a perfect symmetry in the synchronic order between Buddha at the beginning and Muhammad on the other side. In the Quran, it says that Jesus was to be a sign for the end of times, and that the teachings of Jesus would prevail over the world, and that many different factions and sects would arise in the teachings of Jesus. On the upper frame of Votan's sarcophagus lid, Buddha is on the left looking right, Christ is on the far right looking left, and Muhammad is in the center looking at Buddha. This means Muhammad continues what Christ represented and closes what Buddha initiated. Through the law of time, we see an absolute symmetrical pattern connecting these messengers. Of course, 570, 19 times 30 is a factor of 19. 570 plus 570 equals 1140. This is a fractal of 114, that is, 19 times 6, or 19 times 60 equals 1140 years. And 114 is the number of surahs in the Quran. This balanced relationship in time is critical in re-examining the meaning of these world teachers. From a cosmic perspective, Christ can be viewed as the Arcturus Dominion, AD, pivot point in the center between Buddha and Muhammad, indicating that all of the teachings of the three messengers of the awakening are a totality. Only when we understand these teachers and their messages as a comprehensive whole do we get to the point of understanding that the real meaning is why they are the messengers of cosmic history and of you are. In this context, Buddha and Christ are from very different cultures. Buddha came from the civilization of India, and Christ, like Muhammad, was from Mesopotamian or Middle Eastern civilization stream. There is Arabia, and then there is Christ in Palestine. However, they came from the same stream as they both trace back to Abraham. In this regard, the teachings of Christ are actually absorbed into the teachings of Muhammad. When we see this in the crystal lattice of the sarcophagus lid, then we see streams within different facets reflective of each other. Muhammad was sent to update what happened after Abraham, Moses, and Jesus, who are portrayed as prominent prophets in the Quran. In actuality, the teaching and tradition of Muhammad and Jesus are very close. From the Islamic point of view, Jesus was absorbed into and given full credit in the Quran, including the virgin birth and the fact that he was gifted with miracles and he could speak from the crib, etc. The only thing not credited and affirmed is saying he is the Son of God. Muhammad and Christ are the same stream, and that is why we should really be looking at Muhammad and Buddha, the reconciliation of the two endpoints of this triple equation, as a basis of a 21st century post-historic spirituality. Buddha said everything depends on yourself and your relation to the truth or the Dharma. This had nothing to do with Hindu gods or other idols. During the time of Buddha, in the 6th century before Christ, India was predominantly polytheistic, with the Vedic civilization and its different gods and local deities. Buddha said, "Look to no outer authority. Be a lamp and a refuge unto yourself." Like Muhammad, Buddha abjured idolatry of any kind. Meanwhile, in China and Greece, there was a type of mental revolution or ferment happening. In Greece, it was the time of the Pythagorean schools. Geometry was just one aspect of Pythagoras' teachings. He actually was presenting teachings that had to do with the development of the soul. Then came Plato and eventually Aristotle. These philosophers were questioning all the beliefs that had been handed down through that time, and systemizing new ones. In India, it was not just Buddha and Buddhism, but also the beginning of the Jain religion, which occurred around the same time as Buddhism. The Jain religion is still practiced in India, but not by so many people. This religion is far more zealous in its doctrine of not destroying life. Jains wear masks so they do not breathe in microbes, and appear more extreme than the Buddhists. But the Jains are totally ahimsa, non-violent in their beliefs and manifestation. In India at the time of the Buddha, as in Greece, there was a lot of question and inquiry, so there was a great context for new teachings and philosophies. In China, at that time, there were philosophers like Lao Tzu and then Confucius. While Lao Tzu was far more mystical of the two, both beings represent an existential appeal, addressing the individual. Buddha was truly existential in creating a sweeping program or doctrine or philosophy or teaching that asks the individual to look at his or her own mind and question that, and start from there to examine what life really is all about. When these teachings began, they represented a profound questioning or turning away from the norm.